spritzer this and, health drink that. No, I mean, I miss being a raving alcoholic.
Actually, this stomach isn't me being pregnant, Garvin. Just leave me alone.
Maybe we should put our foot on the brake here a little bit, folks.
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It's another Friday to In the Room. And in the room this week, we have Johnathan Brownlee, who is an award-winning writer, director, producer. And we probably won't get a chance to talk about any of those things because we're going to be looking at more interesting things about the fact that he comes from Canada, which is absolutely brilliant. I should have put my Canadian flag out the back there. I have one, so I may actually throw it up.
Probably will with the green screen.
Yeah, we'll put the green screen in because I think that's brilliant. We're actually off to Canada if it opens up in September to go and see to meet my granddaughter for the first time, who's living out there, and who's about 8 or 9 months old, I think, and my grandson, which we haven't seen for 2 years, and I think I get to see my son as well at some point.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
You were talking a short time ago about the fact that your accent sometimes comes from a certain part of Canada, which kind of connects us all here. Well, apart from me, because I'm English, and that's boring.
No, it's true. We were just saying that, you're having a pint next to the guy on you. And when I go out to the Maritimes in Canada, I mean, my stepfather's family is from Prince Edward Island, which is near Newfoundland and Labrador. And I get out there and it's like, right, boy, how's it going? Fill your boots and stuff, right? And then I'm like, what happened here? Oh, it's a couple of beers in. But, it's a big Irish influence in that part of the world, in the Maritimes. And just wonderful people. It's like one of the largest potato fields on the planet. It's potato fields and PEI mussels, which are, of course, exported around the globe, and lobster. And
Jonathan, how could you bring us back to the famine? All I can hear is potatoes and whiskey. Actually, I think the whiskey came from the potatoes. I'm not even sure. I mean, what Ireland is all about now is we're the craft whiskey. And the potatoes never went away. It might be chips or fries or God knows what. But the thing is, there's a very weird perception of Ireland that we're the land of the potatoes and the whiskey. And the Quiet Man and John Wayne and bit of Michael Flatley doing a little bit of a jig and a dance. But actually, we're top of the world. We're the film capital. We're the biotech. We're the Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At the same time, there's no escaping the Irish potato and the whiskey. And we like that because what that is you're eating and drinking with friends.
That's right. And we've got, everyone's like, oh, you're from Canada, so it's poutine, right? Everyone's like, instantly poutine, French fries with cheese curds and gravy, and that's what you eat when you come off the ice, so it's all of those things. But yeah, Ireland has made incredible strides in the film industry in the last 20 years, not the least of which is the tax incentives, which are great. It's not true. I have shot in Ireland many, many years ago when I had a golf show, and I got played to lose playing golf and all the best golf courses on the planet. So that was pretty fabulous. So I got a chance to, play in England, Ireland, and Wales, and Scotland, and India. And
we'll get you back, yes.
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back to hit some hickory sticks and featheries here pretty soon, right?
But actually, that's the weird thing. That you literally hit the nail on the head and go, Ireland is, now again, without talking about the industry, because we didn't want to talk about the war or anything else like that. Yeah. But what Ireland is probably one of the best tax incentives out there for film production. And what the Irish industry wants to do is it's creating talent, and it wants to attract talent, and it wants to attract the stories to Ireland. And what better way than the help of the Irish government to go, you can get the talent here and you can get it at a good tax break. And we have lots of good looking places, and that's what's here. And that's why actually we got into the industry here in the first place, because we see there's a massive opportunity in it, but we also feel a big, massive pain in it. Because 2 years ago, when we sort of entered where we're going, we noticed the exit of the investor from indie production because things are getting harder all the time. And so stories are getting harder to get financed, to get made, because the big players are coming in the top, taking up the capacity, using all the production facilities and the talent to make the big streaming things. But the middle market of indie is what's most attacked and damaged, because it doesn't know how to play the game anymore, because it needs an awful lot of people to get together to attract that finance, to make that story, to create that opportunity. Now that's where we're going to go play, but at the same time, that's where opportunity is hidden, we feel, because there's lots of stories that need making, and it's just the story of the story is where we're going to play, because you have to help others, pay it forward, and help them get that story out there, and that's what attracted us.
You know, I call that kind of no man's land, right? Because you've got the really big players who are, you know, in the $100 million range, and they're coming in and they're like not just renting one soundstage for 3 months anymore; they're renting the entire facility for 10 years. So it also gets their stuff done, but it also pushes everyone else out of the market. You know, but then you've got these, you know, middle budgets, you know, 5 million to 25 million. You know, it's a very difficult space to play in. Stuff under 3 million, under $1 million, the really small or micro indies is still getting made around the planet. And that's kind of how people are being creative to get their stories told. But the stuff in the middle market is really difficult. You know, it's tough.
Well, I think what's really good from our perspective is I made a couple of low budget films just out of the sheer hell of doing it. You know, I've also taught people filmmaking, and my background is in editing. And we just realized that there was an opportunity to mix education with filmmaking, so you end up with a product, because most students go to college and they don't really know how to write scripts. They don't really know how to shoot their stuff. And then they kind of think, well, I've got my first class honors degree and now I can go off and work, and they can't get any work. So what we're looking at is a master's degree, which we've designed from job specifications to basically get people working on a feature film, rotating around. And then at the end of it, we've created a feature film. The way we assess the students is through the documentary we make, because that becomes an asset that you can actually sort of look at assessment, continuous assessment. And then we've got a documentary and a feature film that we can sell at a later date, all paid for before it's left the door. which is the model that we're thinking of anyway, which I think is
actually, here's a strange thing, John, that we says
we're not going to sell. We're not going to sell.
I came on this show. Don't talk about work. George and myself went off and did a pitch by accident. I think we're just geared up because of the last few conversations we're having. Now we're going to park that and go, we don't care about that anymore.
Now about the aliens.
We're back we're back to aliens, or we're back to craft whiskey and Conor McGregor and the fastest lunch of whiskey on the planet. And you go, what? That's the madness of it all. You go, that's what we like. You're going, here's an Irishman that just comes in, sticks his name to a bottle of whiskey. 200 million later, we're going, doesn't even drink the stuff himself. You're going, but there's lots of games to be had, and there's not as much rules anymore. You can conquer the planet with your phone, type of thing.
Well, I mean, you look at guys like George Clooney and that group that had Casamigos, right? You know, like start a little tequila company, and guess what? They sold it for $1 billion, right? You got Ryan Reynolds, you know, who Aviation Gin is like one of the top brands on the planet. Certainly, you know, I live here in Dallas, Texas. I call myself a Canadian cowboy in Texas, right? So it's like we're here, and it's, you know, it's like everything is bigger in Texas, including the egos. So it works out really well for, you know, people trying to be in the entertainment business, because they don't really have a sense of, they really think they want to be in LA or they want to be in New York, but they're here. So it's this very, I actually call them positively Canadian, you know, the Texans, because I actually really like Texans. They're generally very kind. You know, they look you in the eye, you shake your hand and you do something, right? As opposed to other places where, you know, they look you in the eye and then they're figuring out how to stab you in the back. It's not really what happens.
Oh,
here.
I like that. Yeah. It's actually, you said a couple of words there, and you said the clash of the titans and the clash of the egos. You know, and that's what I like, that type of language. You got a film thrown in there, clash of the titans, but the same, and there's lots of muscly men running around and gods and demigods and scantily clad women and God knows what. But the clash of the egos are in the same room to get that thing made and done and financed. And you're going, and then the stars, you're going, it's a strange thing is the clash of the egos. Yeah, we always keep on saying we want to be in the room that we're the only one. So yes, I'd love to be the only Canadian in the room of everybody else. We want to be the only Irish person in the room of all the American. You want to be the odd one out. Therefore, it makes you special in the room because everyone else is a me too and the same.
Well, here's the
and you're
thing,
not competing
Garvin.
with them.
Here's a very strange thing. Sort of, Johnathan is a Canadian in America. I'm an Englishman in Ireland. Now, why haven't you gone anywhere, Garvin?
Yeah, what the hell? Come on. Nobody else would take him. That's what it was. Wouldn't allow him to leave.
No, I have decided never to leave. I am Muhammad. I am going to bring the mountain to Muhammad. I don't need to leave the room. I'm going to bring the mountain to the room. Yeah, that's it.
He's actually the elephant.
Reach out on the ground. I'm the elephant in the room.
There's this amazing hockey announcer in Canada, a guy named Don Cherry. I don't know if you've ever seen Don Cherry, but I'm looking at your suit and shirt, and you should look up Don Cherry, all right? This guy, I don't think they let him out of the hockey rink because nobody else can put up with him, right? And I kind of get the feeling that's sort of where you're at.
No, George doesn't let me out of the room. He doesn't. He's going to edit this show later. I think I'm talking and saying stuff, but when I watch the show afterwards, there's all this head movement. I'm gone. Words are put in afterwards. There's subtitles to explain what it is I thought I was saying.
Right.
So I mean, there is a lot
which we have to make
up. He's a doctor of what I do. He's the strange thing is George is a very, very rational, logical person. I'm irrational, illogical. And therefore, I've also probably got ADHD on steroids. I've been
coaching him for the last 2.5 years.
2 years, and this is the best he got.
Some kind of breakthrough, but it's nearly wrecking me.
Yeah.
Now, you may notice that Garvin is sort of, Johnathan and myself are sort of fairly well seated in the composition. Garvin, every time he starts up here and he starts to sink down, and by the end of the show he's gone. And yet he's 6'6". He's taller than most of us. He's a giant, in Ireland. Everybody else is
a very cheap chair.
We are all equal in 16 by 9. That's the whole thing.
That's it. So we need to get Garvin to just sit up a bit more.
And dance back to the pub.
Yeah.
We're going.
Yeah, I'm barely 4'3", but I look like I'm 6'6" in this frame, right? So
that's it.
But I'm 9'7" with the ego. I mean, I bring that ego into any room. I don't need anybody else. It's me, myself, and I. We're at the bar. There's 3 drinks on the counter. People think they're for them. It's not. That's just me. You get your own drinks.
You're the trifecta, right?
The perfect trifecta.
I have to actually genuflect to you when we walk in the bar because you are the triumvirate. Got it.
You don't want to bring me back to my Ultra Boy days. That's some nightmares. Actually, I'm going to go back to my Ultra Boy days for a second, because every Irish mother puts their kid to be an Ultra Boy. Now, my mother thought I wanted to be an Ultra Boy because I was actually helping to collect all the little the money that was being donated. But she didn't realize was I liked to count money, and I liked it as about as close as I got was collecting these baskets full of it. She thought I wanted to be an Ultra Boy, so she signed me up. All of a sudden, I'm in a little red uniform, and I've got a big cross. And because I was about 6'3" at 13 years of age, they had to put me the front or the whole line in possession and be upset. But I forgot to bend across. So I smashed a stained glass window that's been there about 200 years. I knocked the head of Jesus off the cross. And I think my Ultra Boy days were very short-lived.
Yeah, but excommunication was next. Is that what you're saying? You're out?
Oh, the priests. They didn't want me back there because I was trying to pocket the change as well. It was like one for me, one for God, and one for me.
But you could light the candles because you were tall, or change the light bulb. They had to keep you around for some reason.
I was in that procession. I had that candle, and the person's hair in front of me was on fire. I was dangerous. I am awkward. As a kid, it was 6'6" or 6'3" with too awkwardly in a height at the wrong age and no control of the bodily parts. So I was gangly and awkward, and that was my problem. I was an alien in plain sight to everybody else. They didn't want anything to do with that thing.
See, I knew what that was. Come back to aliens. We're back to aliens.
We're back to aliens. Yeah.
So
right. The interesting thing is that Garvin, when we started these shows, because I'm actually trained to be a deacon, but I haven't mentioned anything about religion. Okay. And when we came on these shows and started them 85 episodes ago, he said, George, you're not allowed to talk about Christianity. You're not allowed to talk about God. And he keeps having his Jesus moments, and he keeps going off and wrecking havoc in the church.
Mine aren't religious, George.
So, yeah. We've heard that he's the Trinity. We heard that he has a beer for each one of them. He's an altar boy. He's burned half the churches in Ireland down. But you, the deacon, isn't allowed to talk about it.
I'm not allowed to talk about it. Yeah.
Now, George has said what he wants. He's quite close. Well, I don't know if he pretends to know the bishop. I don't know what that is. He might know the bishop.
I'm going to go and see him sometime.
Now, what we wanted to do was we want to get the bishop on the show, but the bishop can only talk about Spock. We want him to be out of his Vulcan mind. We want him to. Right. We can't have him talk about religion, but we don't mind having the bishop talk about maybe the ethics around Star Trek. That would be a bit more interesting.
Well, here's looking up your cassock.
Yes.
Well, there's nothing up there worth looking at, trust us.
But that's the great thing, because I think I love sci-fi, and I'm not going to escape from sci-fi because I love the fact that you can talk about anything in sci-fi because they explore all kinds of ideas, and that becomes, you know, you can sneak in little bits and pieces because of the sci-fi and the things they kind of explore. So are you into sci-fi, or do you I know I have a friend of mine that says, don't talk about sci-fi, George, I hate it, and so we just keep talking about sci-fi to upset him.
No, I especially as a kid in high school, you know, Arthur C. Clarke and all, you know, all the great sci-fi writers. And of course I was a big fan of, you mentioned Star Trek.
Yes.
And actually I made a film with Mariette Hartley a couple of years ago, and she was on Star Trek. She was the only person besides, you know, Captain Kirk I'd ever worked with. So it was interesting talking to her about being on that set and being a part of that, you know, iconic show, which actually there's not a lot of people think it's like, oh, it was on for, you know, 25 years. I'm like, there's not that many episodes, right?
73 episodes.
Yeah, it's really incredible when you think about the impact that something like that has had on our culture, and we always reference it, even though, you know, in the great scheme of things, you know, it really wasn't, you know, this long running television series. It's really fascinating.
We always mention that what it is there's a good element of science, the journey of science fiction to science fact, and the self-fulfilling prophecy of everything from the mobile phone to nanotechnology and that sort of stuff. Now, the one thing I really miss, or I'm missing or waiting for, is the beam me up and beam me down. We also touched on the fact we sort of have that, but it's not beaming the matter, it's beaming, you know, the ones and zeros. You know, I mean, and that's what we're beaming up and down currently. Now, Elon and Jeff there, you know, when one couple of the richest people on the planet are leaving the planet.
By the way, they're all in our backyard here in Texas, right? So that's
they're on the way in a ship somewhere. I thought they're leaving the planet.
I know.
You want to be tumming a lift wherever they're going because there's something else on the way that we need to be avoiding.
I still think the beaming up and beaming down is happening because every time I open my front door, there are Amazon packages out there. And I'm not sure I ordered any of these things. They just show up every single day on my porch. And I'm like, so he must have figured it out, because how the hell does he get stuff to 1 billion people on the planet overnight? Or, hey, now we've got it in the afternoon. You order something and before you finish clicking, there's a knock at your door. So he's got to be beaming shit up and down, right? It's got to be happening.
It's about time travel.
Actually, what he's done is kidnapped Santa's elves. You go, Santa's elves now work for Amazon. You know, they're working 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. You know, that's what's going on there. Time is now relative. And it's Amazonian time.
Amazonian time.
I mean, they've definitely packaged time there somehow. You know, but
it's when you get the thing on. It's when you get the thing on the door that tells you that your daughter's actually pregnant, and nobody actually knew about it, and neither did she.
Okay, that took an entirely new turn.
George has gone. First of all,
I was watching stuff about Amazon on DW.
Here.
And you know what they're doing here with babies now is they're having these gender reveal parties. Do you guys have those in Ireland? This is ridiculous. So they're coming up with all these crazy ways to tell, you know, their husband that it's a girl or it's a boy.
Or it's yours, the better one. You know?
or it's the deacons, right?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
actually, the gas thing is now, that's a sensitive subject. I mean, everyone's given out about gender per se. Now, how do you do a gender reveal? Could be a table, could be any one of the letters in the alphabet. You can't be saying that or doing that anymore. Everything is too. I'm frightened to open my. George is frightened if I open my mouth because I'm not. I don't know how to be PC. I don't know what PC is.
I think you just have to check, and you just have to check all of the above, and then you're covered. Right. So whatever.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, my wife's used to be, well, no, she's going back to being a midwife. She's been a midwife for the last 30 odd years. So the gender reveal is usually quite quick at that particular point in time.
Really?
So, yeah. And you kind of go, so what do we do? Okay. Hang on a second. Let's do some psychoanalysis of the baby to see which gender he wants to be. Oh, sorry. Maybe it wants to be. It's an alien.
It's the Immaculate Conception. That's back to aliens. You're going.
No, the alien thing. Well, did you get caught up in the big sort of build up to the reveal of the are there really aliens out there, or is it just the fact that they want a bigger budget on their military spend?
Yeah, no, it's always about money, right? So it's like clearly they felt left out in the whole social media and PR things. Like, we're not getting any press anymore. We used to used to be all, Area 51 and aliens and Roswell and all this stuff. But they're like, well, clearly no one is doing a good job with our press. So guess what? We're going to come out with some story. And we're like, this is going to be wah, wah, like boring. Like, really? Yeah. There's stuff lying around that we don't know about. Big shocker.
Yeah.
Us, right? Like,
and they've got no X-Files anymore.
In one of our shows recently, I think it's only a few shows back, we discussed the fact, if the big reveal is they're already here, but the whole point is, if it's there, they're here. They're already here and always have been. So if they're here, for them themselves, the alien, to get any sort of recognition on TikTok even, they gotta be putting on a serious song and dance and makeup session, because the amount of stuff that's out there, even if they're staring you in the face at the bar, you'd be telling them to pass the ice and they couldn't even get your attention because it's that difficult.
Well, and Zuckerberg and those guys have already, no aliens on Facebook, right? So they've been canned already. So you can't even get on Facebook if you're an alien.
I know.
Right? You don't have a driver's license.
No, we actually decided what the aliens were probably trying to do themselves, if they're actually the ones orchestrating this, is they want to get onto first dates and blind dates and all these type of shows, because every other weird looking aliens out there trying to get a date, they want to get a date. Because you'll have the ones that aren't using, what's that one you swipe left or right, I don't know, with Tinders and God knows what.
Yeah, that's I like that he's pretending he doesn't know what it is. Yeah, sure. Yeah. What is that? Oh, those online. I don't know what.
You swipe up, you swipe down, and Amazon delivers one to the door. That's what we're told.
The swipe thingy, Bobby, that gets.
I wasn't looking for Amazon. I was looking for an Amazonian warrior. I mean, that's what was meant to turn up. Was actually Wonder Woman. But
we
is not showing up.
We had a. I went outside the other day and I heard this buzzing noise and I was kind of going, what the hell's that? There must be some really big bees around here or something, And I turned around and there was a drone just above me looking down, and we're kind of going, oh, for goodness sake, who's got a drone? And it was flying around and doing all sorts of things. I think it was one of the neighbors, but I tell you, we used to have helicopters flying all over the place in Northern Ireland, and that used to it was a crazy thing. But to suddenly see a drone flying around and doing stuff, you kind of felt more uneasy, because these things have cameras and they could be watching you. Although there was one October period where we'd gone down from Belfast to here and we saw all these big orange things flying around, and we were kind of going, oh, they must be the Chinese lanterns. I got home here and there was one outside and it just sat there, and I went, ooh, that's a kind of freaky thing. And then it did what they did on these shows. It just flew off over the mountain, and I went, that was not a Chinese lantern. That was something else. And I wonder what that was. That was, to me, like an alien watching us. But the drone was a bit more freaky, because you knew it's a human actually watching you. You knew they were collecting data somewhere. And I think the big data thing is the big problem that we're all finding now, is that how much do they really know about us?
While you're talking about that, George, what's popped into my mind is, Jonathan, are you a doomsday prepper?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm in Texas. You have to have a run bag. You know what a run bag is?
That's okay. So what's in the handbag? What's in the bag? The man bag.
Like how many guns can you carry, and how many water purifiers can you have, and how many $20 bills can you have, and maybe I should be carrying diamonds instead, because currency.
Well, that's the thing. Money will be no use. I mean, they can't eat that. You're going. It's the banks are gone. The electricity is switched off. You're going. There's the Walking Dead are at the bottom of the road.
The problem is I can't get the keg of beer in the backpack. That's really the problem, right?
So you have the right idea.
Screw the water. It's like, if I can't have a beer, we're might as well go
grab the whiskey, grab the potatoes. Grab the gun.
That's all you really need.
The question we always ask ourselves is, where are we going? You look at Mission. What was it? War of the Worlds, and Tom Cruise, one of the last ones, and you're going. They're all heading off somewhere. You're going. Where are they going? What's the plan?
I'm going to Ireland. That's where I'm going to go, because they're not going to bother you guys, right? They're going to be like, yeah, screw Ireland. Let's the United States up first, right? I think that's what's going to happen.
This is it, because we suddenly start to appreciate that the landscape here is actually lovely. I've got a mountain out here. It's about a 16th of the size of the mountains that you have in Canada, where the Rockies
got a hill, George.
It's just about got that.
I think that actually might be a mound.
There's a mound. Okay, we don't. It's not a molehill because we don't have moles here.
It's not a molehill.
It's not a molehill, but it looks pretty when we're living on the side of it.
Yeah,
and it's just there. But I know that. I mean, we did go to Edmonton, we drove from there to Jasper and the likes of.
Oh, it's amazing.
It is a long journey. We were listening to some podcasts on the way, and then we got to the mountains. The mountains are really good. But I still love what we've got here. I still love the little hill type thing that we've got here that goes green and sometimes gets on fire like Canada does at the moment. And we still have those. We've had the circle of fire around our mountain. I live in a place called Slieve Gullion. Literally do live in it. It's actually a volcano where the top dropped down and there's a big ring around it. Okay, and the peak's just inside, and we just live inside there. We have the Ring of Gullion. But we do have, we're wondering whether it's going to explode at some point. And it's a bit like,
then you won't need a run bag.
No, we won't need a run bag. So we're, and I don't think we need run bags here anyway. So because there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide.
Is that a film as well? I don't know. Is that a song? There's nowhere to hide. That's the problem.
No, rawhide.
Actually, I'm from I lived in another village 10 miles up from here, and it's called Gregnamana. And what it is Gregnamana actually means Valley of the Monks, and in Irish. And Valley of I keep on saying, because I wasn't from there, my wife was from there. I was from the big city to Dublin. I came down to where I was told to be based on if you're going to have children and get married. You go where the wife's mother is from. You go back to the homestead. So I had to come from the big city down to the country. But Valley of the Monks,
so you can get your laundry done. Is that why?
Exactly. Well, no. Yes. The thing is, I had a couple of siblings. You didn't have the plug-in childminders, the whole Instamatic. Actually, it's like the Waltons. 12 brothers and sisters, massive Irish families down the country. Yep. I was the nuclear family of 1.5, cars and 2 sisters, and no one talked to each other. You certainly weren't going to be minding the other people, one's children. You were at a distance. So this was the family, the Waltons. I plugged into the Waltons. I plugged into the valley. I plugged into the country and the country girl and the farmstead and that type of thing. It was brilliant. I loved it. But Valley of the Monks was Valley of the Drunks. It was 2,000 people and 16 pubs. So, I mean, it was... Now, every time I went to these pubs at night, they were all full. You're going, I don't know where the people are coming from because there are. So I didn't realize I was one drink behind everybody. So what was happening was everyone moved pubs. And then you got to the next one, it was a full pub, but the one you left was empty. So it was everyone shared the love, shared the wealth, gave everyone the business. And I said, at that rate, 16 pubs, you're 10 pints in at the minimum a night. But I mean, they know how to party, as you say, they know how to drink. They know how to have the session. So I know where we got the imagery abroad as you go out in Ireland, you don't know, it's there's some other comedian in England that's out. You don't know when you're going to get back in. You're out till you drop or you run out of money or you just as you have the bag of chips and you hopefully make it home with a taxi. But I mean, if you're in a village where you're already home, they lock you in. They call it the lock-in. You don't even get to leave the pub. Is that there in Canada as well?
No, I wish it was actually. That sounds positively wonderful, quite frankly. Oh, gee darn, I got locked in. Well, I'll just keep pouring myself pints all night long, right?
They lock you in and they lock the guards out. That meant you're no longer a customer and now you're a guest.
That's it.
So that the law got around the licensing laws.
Oh, got it. No,
as soon as the guard was off duty, they opened him up and let him in so he could carry on drinking with them as well. That was always the way up here.
Clearly.
Now we're all doing ballygowns and water, though. We're getting healthy and spritzer this and health drink that. No, I mean, I miss being a raving alcoholic. Sometimes,
how could you miss that? That's something you never give up. I think, some people say, "Oh, I'm not drinking." Yeah, whatever.
It's in the DNA. It is in the DNA.
Yeah, that's the problem I've got because being English, I'm the designated driver. I have to drive everybody around. I've always got a car full of drunks sort of carrying on drinking as I'm, and that's because I've married an Irish girl. She says, right, I'm off here. I'm off out drinking. You're taking me. You've got to be sober so you can bring me back home again. I'm going to have a party. So that's all right.
Do you guys have Uber or like Uber or Lyft over there? Any of those ride sharing things? Because I haven't been to the UK or Ireland or Wales.
I think they do in England. I'm not sure about over here.
Yeah.
They don't really have it in Ireland. Not as much. It's just not. There's just not the volume and the taxi laws.
It's still a taxi, right?
Oh, there's still taxis. Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's Ireland is more a case of it's insurance because the cost of insurance in Ireland. It's a suing culture as well. I don't like saying it, but it is. And I never mind suing. It's nearly staged and then sue you. So it's so therefore to get the license to suddenly have your private car to be you can barely use your own car and have a license and get the insurance first.
I've been in a black taxi. They used to go down the Falls Road and they used to pile in about 6 or 7 different people and it used to cost 30p to get down the road. And they parked a taxi once and this car accidentally went into the back of it. And the next thing everybody went straight to the hospital. Yeah, I'm going to put a claim in. So there was the claim. It's
all my neck.
It's all in my neck.
It's terrible, but it's so true. If I thought about it when I was younger and literally seatbelts didn't exist, but as you said, George just said it, going home from nightclubs, it was how many bodies were in the boot. It was literally, you had bodies in the boot. You just fit them and wrapped them and folded them up and put them in, and 8 people or 10 people got home in like a Ford Fiesta, which is something for 4 people, especially if they were Japanese or Chinese.
I know. I went to pick my wife up once, and there's about 10 other people in the car. None of them with her party because they wanted to get home. So this is like 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning, you go in Newry. Newry's only got about 23,000 people. Okay, and
the whole
2
thing
o'clock,
is, George,
everybody comes out and they can't find a taxi.
So, John, actually, Uber was there 30 years ago. It was just run by a bunch of people bringing alcoholics from pub to pub and maybe home and maybe charging for the petrol. But it wasn't actually, we didn't realize that you could have Uberized from that moment onwards and actually had £1 billion firm across the planet. Exactly. It was already done. Someone just monetized it.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So what is it over like there right now with the pandemic? Are you guys locked in? What's sort of going on right now?
Yeah, well, we're oppressively locked in the UK, and apparently next week we will be oppressively unlocked, and we will suddenly all float up into the air and cause all kinds of more pandemics elsewhere, not because of any viruses, but just because we're all mad around here. Southern Ireland is slightly different. I live on the border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and there's a different regime just south.
We're trying to open up, and the government there's this thing called NEFID, which is basically the medical advice. Right. And the government has made the wrong decision so many times. Now it's blaming them, going, we're going to everything they tell us we're going to do, and we're not going to open up. So it's an overcautiousness for a while. Yeah. There was an undercautiousness which made it explode again. Now they're doubly overcautious because they made a mistake twice and they want to get back into government. And now the weird thing is we have half the population jabbed. But at the same time, all the math says, mathematically, we're about to go from 500 cases to a couple of thousand cases a day, but the hospitalizations are going the opposite way. But the thing is, we've got these other variants out there.
Right.
So we're on the precipice of opening when the numbers are going up.
Yes.
But it's just because we're jabbed. We're half fine, but where it's going to go rampant is when the other half, there aren't.
Yeah.
So I have my daughter working in a hotel that she isn't jabbed and the people in there are. So she can actually go work in it, but can't come in the other door and actually sit in it and order. So because she hasn't got her jab, but she can work in it. So there's a total madness of going on of actually the hotels, you can have people in it. Yeah. But the restaurant next door can't open, have people in it because it's not a hotel.
Well, we went to Dublin last week, and we'd actually managed to get into a hotel, which was fine. And we went to walk around Dublin, and there was nowhere to sit, so you had to walk for miles and miles and miles. There were a couple of places that were open outside, but you couldn't go inside to have your pint of Guinness, and it was completely mad. And it was Temple Bar. So the whole of Temple Bar, which is this favorite street that's in there, was full of people getting drunk outside. No social distancing, all having a great ball. You're going to go,
and riots.
Right, there's a hot spot. And riots. Yeah, that happened in the evening. We managed to escape that part.
So what's happening is when people were inside before in these particular areas, there was a certain decorum or bounces on the bar and tourism and an attraction. But now what's happened is there's no barriers. So every fucking cowboy, God knows what, is training it in with their bag of cans and tins and actually getting trolleyed with the tourists and they get all in the one spot. Yeah. And literally Dublin has now got running battle riots because they're all off their heads drunk and they're just attacking each other because there's no barrier or distance from this societal difference in tourism. I'm a tourist, you're a guest. You shouldn't be here because you should, because you're crime, you're trouble, you're the one that pickpockets us. You're the, but again, it's all these different parts of society are now mixing out in the outside bars, and there's no actual barrier.
There's nothing there.
So
what's it like in Dallas?
I don't want to go there.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of gone the opposite way here, right? Because we have a governor, who. I don't want to go there, man. I mean, it's just like, it's clear. He makes decisions based on what he wants to do or what he thinks is good for his political career, as opposed to, what's good for, the people in his state. And like, he opened it up early on, no masks, no nothing. And that was even before, really a large part of the population had been stuck, had been jabbed, as you guys say, right? But I mean, now the majority of people that want a vaccine have already gotten both their shots or their single shot or whatever it is. And so what's happening is, and it's generally the uneducated and more the right-wing folks who are not getting the vaccine. So, I'm curious to see the statistics of, what happens with the Democratic and the Republican population.
I think I'd be locked up if you, I could give you some of the demographics here. And literally,
so I'm sure it's killing them off, more.
They won't put the map up because they were told, again, it's like discrimination. You're going, if you put the map of where it's all happening, you're able to go, right here is 80% of the cases. What's the demographic there? They're having house parties. They don't go to school or college. They all bus into here and break into cars. Or not. No, that's very, very unfair because there is a poverty thing, there is a demographic, a psychographic, there's a mix. But unfortunately, the maths is playing out. It's exactly educated versus uneducated, poor versus a little bit wealthier.
No, it's
dictated by cities and zones and area codes where you live. So there are bubbles of activity going on, and the numbers do stack up. And
I know we've had my wife and I actually got COVID last year at the very beginning of it, 19th of March. We both got it. Now, we didn't get it bad. Trisha was back to work within about 2 weeks, within the time scale. But unfortunately, I got the long COVID. I ended up getting asthma. So, and you couldn't get a test until about 6-7 months later to find out that we had got the antibodies, which kind of proved that we had it. And our first few shows that we've got, I've got COVID, and I'm trying to go through a show with COVID. And I keep soldering on, and we got through it, but you can tell there's a big difference between now.
He was happy to let me talk because he was coughing up a lung. And in the meantime, actually, when I look at some of the shows back there, I go, Jesus, George, you look very sick there in those images. And he's half dead. He was barely able to breathe. He was happy for me to talk.
But you can't survive it.
Here they can't hire people fast enough. The economy is booming. I mean, the economy never really suffered. Some elements did, movie theaters and other things like that. But they cannot hire people fast enough. Like, they're paying people $1,500 bonus to start at McDonald's. That's how bad it is. But nobody's like, really?
We have that here. The problem now is there's a certain, they gave us the whatever the stimulus check is or equivalent, and here they got better pay not working at a certain level of society. Now they can't get them back in. Now they have to figure out how to remove it.
Yeah.
And so therefore the service industry which is it's maybe a minimum wage to industrial wage journey, is having great difficulty attracting people back in. Now it will attract maybe a certain age profile because it's students that want to go to college, and they will fill the numbers back up. Another bunch, and that's exactly what we found, was you had our age group that went, now we didn't realize we were working 60-hour weeks before. We were sucked into the whole madness of work, and we identified ourselves with the work we were doing. And now we call it the Great Reset. That happened was the stop. You suddenly woke up and you went, what the hell? 30 years, where's it gone? And I suddenly realized, and George realized, I have a young family. The only thing that's invaluable is time. we have to give more value to this time, this work-life balance. There was no balance. There was no life. The life was work. And
we weren't getting the opportunity to talk to people because the work was sucking our lives out. I mean, my wife's just retired. She's quite young, but she's retired because she's done the 38 years. And I know that the last couple of years she was in a higher middle management type role, and they were saying, "Oh, you have to do the call." She worked in the hospital, so every other Saturday it seemed she was having to be on call to fix problems in 2 regional hospitals, and she was saying, "Oh, that'll go towards your pension," and so she was being stacked up these things. And as soon as she then got a pension worked out and she just retired, they said, "No, none of that went towards your pension. we just fooled you there." And she was kind of go, "What on earth was I doing?" And it's taken that time to realize that we shouldn't have been working our socks off. And I'm now actually getting to the point where I do feel wrecked. I kind of go, and I've said this to Garvin, I'm actually wrecked. I'm going to take a couple of minutes away just to revitalize myself in some form or fashion, just to chill out for a few minutes. And having those breaks does actually give you a chance to keep on working a little bit longer. But I'm working because I want to, not because somebody else has asked me to work, and I think that's the important thing,
How come it took us so long to figure this out? Right? It's like we're grinding away for years, right? For years and years and years. And for what? We've missed a lot of things have just whoosh gone right by us, and now we're just slowly figuring out, maybe we should put our foot on the brake here a little bit, folks, and enjoy what's around us. And
we've all been indoctrinated into silos. That's the language where we do. It's a job, a career for life. That was all. It's no longer there. Now it's portfolio job. But even then, work, 5 jobs, 6 jobs. You go, no, all this work. The money is a reward for the work. Now, if we can get the passion, and that's what everyone wants. We don't. Most people don't even have a passion because they didn't even have time to even find one, because they had the bill, they had the strife, they had the bread and butter, they had to get this, do that. They couldn't stop long enough to think. Therefore, they couldn't actually develop a passion that could pay. Therefore, then they're 10 years in and the bill got bigger. Then it was more impossible to extract yourself. Now, admittedly, we're mid-50s and thereabouts, and we're going, it took us, actually, as I said, it took the pandemic.
No, it certainly was helpful. I mean, it's like
it helped me, and it helped.
I've been lucky. I mean, I do what I love. I've always done what I love. So I've been really lucky that way. I've never taken a job, since I was in high school or something that, was just to make money, and so I get, I'm one of the lucky guys on the planet. But I do, my problem is I have a hard time saying no. Right. So it's like, I'm like,
you're just a girl that can't say no. That's what it
exactly.
is.
I'm right out of Oklahoma. All right. Well, it's
Yeah, I've actually, again, within the last 2 years, I've been doing lots of video work and production work and various other bits and pieces locally. But one of the things that I found, and I got talking to a builder that was having exactly the same problem, because we tend to think that we shouldn't say no. And we end up doing about 3 or 4 times the amount of work that we should do based on what they want to pay us. And now what's happened is I got a phone call yesterday from somebody who wanted me to do a video for them. And I had said, no, I might find someone to help you, but I'm not doing it anymore, because I know that what they're asking for is going to be about 5 or 6 times the amount. I'm not going to enjoy it. And it's going to take me away from what I really want. So we're now saying to people, if you want to book us to do something, you've got to pay a certain amount of money, because that's the compensation that Garvin needs for the lack of me not being there and holding up the project that we're working on. And that works really, really well, because people are going, oh, George is really, really busy. So he is busy, but he's doing what he loves doing, not what somebody else loves doing. And I think other people are getting the benefits from that, because we can enjoy talking to you on the other side. We've talked to people in Spain, in Argentina, and now in Dallas there, and all over the place. And it's really good, because we never would have had that opportunity to do that before, because we would have been just grinding our way, trying to get something done, trying to meet a deadline. And I did learn a long, long time, especially from editing perspective, that you suddenly had this deadline. So you put all your energies into getting that deadline met. And 5 minutes before the deadline, the producer comes back to you and says, oh, we can now go on for another 5 hours. But it's 3 o'clock in the morning. How am I meant to get the energy to keep on going to 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? And you did find it, but you get burnout. And I think that's one of the things you suddenly realize you can't keep doing that, because you won't be around. And we need to have more conversations with people like this, because this gives you something worthwhile to feel that actually that's what life's about. I've enjoyed today because I've had a really great conversation with somebody, and I'm going to enjoy when I edit this. And I know that there's going to be an audience that will enjoy watching this because we're actually chilling out and having fun. And that's what a lot of people want to do. And they need to be given permission to go and do the same thing, because that's what's really important. You know, I'm being more and more creative now because I spend at least, you know, the first hour of the morning writing. I actually deliberately write every morning. I get up. I actually, it's a Monday to Friday thing because I give myself a break over the weekend, but I actually write, and I'm enjoying what I'm having a chance to write, and I don't need to be given permission. And I think most of us are grown up in a world where we had to be given, someone told us when we could go and do something else. And I think we've now rebelled against that and saying, no, we can make that decision. I can do that. And if someone's going to tell me I can't do that, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong in a few months or a few years time, because I'll have gone ahead and done what you said I couldn't do.
Well, I love that you're setting up time. Like I have to write for a living, but I'm never good at just like, hey, from 9 to 10, I'm writing. It never works that way for me. Right. It's like, you know, there'll be weeks I'm like, shit, I got nothing. Right. Like there's nothing going on in the back of the beginning. I was going to, I got nothing. And then all of a sudden, bam, it's like a rocket ship. And then, you know, I'll be like in 2 weeks, you know, I'll have, you know, put together a draft, or there's just some, you know, it comes in spurts and dribbles for me, but you know, you've got to let yourself also know how you work, right? Like a lot of people, you know, they're good doing, you know, an hour a day, or they're very disciplined. Like that's just not me, right? It's like,
no, but the difference is, Jonathan, he's not writing for work. You've just done the work is writing. Now our equivalent of writing is probably cappuccino, double chocolate chip muffin, shooting the breeze, talking some shite at the bottom of the road with someone else. It's horses for courses, as they say. So therefore, you'd associate writing with writing and work. Therefore, it's what is it surfing? What is the hour of creative distraction that isn't a paying job? Is the question.
That's it. That's true. It's very true.
Well, I know
you have the passion project, which is a total different something on the side, which isn't the one asked for by the client, but rather this is my plaything, this is my go-to space, this is my opus dei, this is my game. That's pretty much the one, you know.
But I think what I started to get into was this way that I did Julian Cameron's The Artist's Way, and I'm actually in week 62 at the moment. I used to journal when I was a youngster, and I do lots of writing at various different times. I have to write a couple of essays at the moment, and I've got to get those written there. There's a deadline. I've got to get 2 essays written in the next few days. But what I found is that I have disciplined myself to specifically write at a certain time, at a certain day, to get a certain volume done. And then the rest of the day, I'm free to do other things. And what I'm finding is in the editing process, because I mean, I enjoy the filmmaking process. I enjoy what we're doing here, but I know that I'm going to have a bit more fun playing around with the editing of multiple cameras and stuff. And then I'll produce a little bit of graphics and stuff. And I have, you know, I have a pattern of work that I go through, and I know that I can achieve what I need to do, and I don't have to overly think about it. But there are then these conversations that we're having where you suddenly get that kind of creative spurt coming out, and you kind of go, oh, look at all those ideas. And we're now capturing those conversations, and we're starting to turn those into written material as well, and work out what the value could be within them that we could share with other people that might help them go through similar sort of ways of working. Because I have a son who's doing a master's degree, and he's sort of panicking because he's thinking he's got some kind of psychological problems. And I said, son, I'll help you work through this. There's a methodology. And when we applied that methodology, he was getting nearly first class, you know, honors degree kind of qualifications out of it. And I said, look, you know, it's just a process. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Get it done. Don't let that thing stop you. And I think that works really, really well. No, it's not to stop you from doing what you do. You've got your method, and that method works. And I think that's the key thing everybody has to find. What's the method that works for you so you can achieve what you need to achieve? And also, what I used to tell a lot of my students in the past was you have to plan for the times when you want to relax and have entertainment, that you have to fit those in and give yourself permission to do that, because that's when you switch off. And then all of a sudden these ideas come into your head because you're not trying to find those ideas to solve problems. Right. And you need that space to do that. And that's valuable time, and it could be charged as well. You know, going for a walk, you could charge that, because that's when you get all these wonderful ideas, because you don't know what's going to flood in.
I always say to George, there's like my wife was always saying it to me, You go, what are you doing? I'm saying, I'm doing nothing. She says, well, stop doing nothing, do this. And I go, no, I'm doing nothing. The nothing I'm doing is nothing. And the nothing, because what it does, it's the best thing I do. You know, and it opens up, as you said, as soon as I've stopped, I can't stop the creativity coming in. Actually, I nearly drowned. I nearly need to do something to stop that.
Well, it's actually about being, isn't it? We've started to go through this conversation that it's not about doing, it's about being. And the great thing is you're a writer. So you are a writer. That's your being, is a writer. And we do lots of crazy little things, and we're that. You know, I class myself as a filmmaker. I don't have to do anything to be a filmmaker. I just keep doing, I am. That's what, you know, and there'll be things that I just suddenly get interested in. Like my son suddenly sent me a load of pictures that they had photographs of the family. And it was on WhatsApp, and I went through, God, that's a very muddy image. So I said, look, this image should look like this, and it should be cropped like that. And I sent the images back to him. He says, yeah, I thought there was something wrong with them, Dad. And I hadn't thought about it. It's just that I automatically sort of edited all these photographs that sent me. Just because
I mean, you have a similar disease to what I have. It's called creativity, right?
Yeah, so that's it.
You know, and even if I'm not making a film or writing a film or, you know, posting a film or developing a film or, you know, whatever, I love to build. So I'm building a shed, or like we redid our entire backyard. We built a swimming pool, and I designed the swimming pool, and I did it the way I wanted to do it. Right. Because there's just something about the
I'm in a log cabin. That's my log cabin. Ah, brilliant. That creativity really does.
I'm writing to 3 different children to go, will you get that feckin' dog in? There's a German Shepherd barking out there.
Barking around.
Going, George is going to be giving out to me, so hear all this big woof going on.
I can't hear those sounds. Yeah, but that,
you know,
but do you know what?
I know it's been picked up here. You know?
I've just put together a fence. I got myself a pneumatic nail gun, and a whole load of other things, and we put a fence up, and we actually had a neighbor put a fence up, and they wanted to charge me double the amount of money that I knew it was, and I went, hang on a second, you know, get that right, but don't charge me all this money. And we went and put up our fence. Now I'm starting to plan where the next shed could go, because I want to have a crack.
Yeah, right.
How are you enjoying that process? How are you enjoying that?
Well, I love it. I used to, you know, I had my own home renovation television series years ago. So I always bought houses and flipped houses, and then I made a TV show out of it, right? So
you're not Tim the Toolman Taylor, was it? No,
it was not Tim, and it wasn't Bob Vila either, right? So although I grew up watching those shows, I love those shows, but it was back in a time when I was commuting between Los Angeles and Vancouver, Canada, and I was up in Vancouver, and they had just created this thing called HD, high definition. It was coming, but nobody could afford to shoot on it, right? Because it was like a $500,000 camera, and you had to have prime lenses, and so we did this deal with Sony, and they gave us all the gear. So we were the first TV show in Canada to actually shoot in high definition. You know, now you can shoot 4K on your phone, you know, but it was back in the day. So, you know, we had probably the best looking home renovation show on the planet, and then that's actually how I ended up in, you know, in Ireland and places like that. Is once we had that successful show and we were shooting in HD, you know, places like the Golf Channel and other places like, hey, why don't you make a golf channel in high definition? We'd love that. Oh, wow. So, you know, sometimes it's just like, you know, your business brain and your creative brain. And I'm like, I love doing houses. And so it all, you know, some of that stuff all comes together. And that also gets you out of your, you know, your regular track too, right? I'm not making a film, I'm building a shed, or I'm making a pool, or whatever it is. And that, you know, I think you keep the wheels turning on other things, then that does, to your point, kind of reinvigorates, re-energizes you when you come back to sort of your vocation, right?
Well, during the pandemic, when I was teaching, there was a period where I had to stop because of burnout, and I learned to play the violin. And you know, people again told me I couldn't. And I went, you know what, I'm going to have a crack at it.
Was it the violin or the fiddle? Which did you learn to play?
No, well, George didn't hear.
Actually, the violin.
Jonathan, what people says was they wish he wouldn't. You know, it's not that he couldn't.
We cleared the cats out of the garden, which was brilliant because we now have lots of birds. No, but I got better at it. And I did actually, we won't talk about it, but I found a captive audience. That captive audience was the congregation, the local church, and I played in there for about 2.5 years. So I did get. I've actually got the local priest asking me if I could go and teach him how to play the violin.
That's using your power as a deacon for bad stuff, man. Like
I'm only in training at the deacon. I wasn't a deacon then, so that was okay.
saying that's pretty sad, man.
But the same sort of thing is that I have guitars all over the place, and I couldn't learn to play the guitar for nearly 40 years, and all of a sudden, because I feel a bit more chilled out, I'm now getting a chance to do those sort of things.
So you went from 6 strings to 4 strings. You thought that would be easier? Is that kind of the idea?
I kind of went backwards and forwards, and I mess around.
I have no strings on my bow at all. You know, tone deaf music. You know, actually, my kids are quite musical, and it's certainly not coming from me. And then that's why I'm questioning. Hold on a second. I'm 6'6". They're about 5'4". I'll have to talk to my wife and see what's going on, because they're musical. They're mindful. They are, they're just not me. There's nothing in the DNA it seems to be translating from a mini.
Well, lucky your kids. I've only known you for about an hour, and I'm glad that your kids didn't get any of that DNA. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah. Actually, now the whole point is they could be worse than me. That's the whole. I'm wondering if they've got it, and now they're going to be a 10x me. That could be very dangerous as well. But again, it could be good for YouTube. I don't know. It's that type of thing. But no, it's good. That's back to what we were talking about in the sense of the wake up call in the last 2 years has been the work-life balance, family, what's important, time, money. It's just that was an evidence of a different output. Hopefully, it comes from passion, doing something you like and love, and that's the new journey that myself and George and people we're involved with are now going on. We're prioritizing time and passion over money, family over such and such. I'm sure Tony Robbins and all that, that's what you're meant to be doing. And it's a rebalancing and a reweighting. And that's what we're starting to enjoy and starting to be aware of more so than anything else.
Right.
So we're excited about where that might bring us. And it's brought us to yourself. It's brought us to, we're doing things, if you went back 2 years in time, you couldn't come up with as a goal or as something that could be happening in the absence of that stop and start. So it's actually, there's a lot of positive that came from it for us. We won't dwell on the negative that it's caused out there, because that we know what it is. But there is a wake-up call for an awful lot of people, and hopefully more people will be mindful of time and family and wealth. The wealth is the health, is the family, not the wealth.
Absolutely. And did you find
I wouldn't mind the money too. That's good.
Well, we'll get there. But did you find this period of time gave you those kind of opportunities as well, Johnathan, or have you had a different experience of the last couple of years?
Well, I call it hunk. You either became a hunk, a chunk, or a drunk during the pandemic. No, I'm just kidding you. No, it was.
All three.
Yes, or all three, all of the above.
Yes, I've got to lose a few things here.
Right? My COVID-19 is right around my waist right now.
Yeah.
No, it's. I definitely found. I have a 23-year-old son and we have a 7-year-old daughter. Don't even go there. I don't know. There's not enough booze in the day to figure that gap out. So, but we're all. We've all been living in the same house. For over a year, and my daughter thinks it's summer camp. So it's been great. She had her parents around the whole time, because I usually had to travel a bunch, go shooting all over the world and whatever else you're doing. Or, my wife calls it, she becomes a film widow, when I'm making a film, because I'm just not only, even if I'm here, I'm not, my brain is always, off making the film, or you're in, 16-hour days. So it was really interesting, especially I think the first 3 or 4 months, we just didn't do anything. Right. It was like the first time in my life that I hadn't just really, which is why I started building sheds. I'm like, I got to do something. But it was really nice just to kind of not do a lot and not fill your brain with unnecessary things, and just be kind of present. And I think that was a huge, interesting reset. And at the same time, when I was doing that, just people were throwing projects at me. It was one of the most prolific writing years of my life, even though I said, look, guys, I'm not going to go out and shoot this film. They're like, no, just write it for us. You can direct it in a couple of years. So sometimes when you just kind of pause and say no, it's interesting what happens. Then you can really pick and choose and cherry pick what you want to do, but then fits into that sort of new direction of how you're living your life. I think that's been a really interesting part of this, for me anyway.
Now, I'm reminded of a different thing, that a statistic, you enjoy statistics, that's about to come out of England and Ireland. And what it's tied around, again, the magic number 19 and all the rest of it. And what it is there's going to be a bunch of people were thrown together that weren't ever together for years. And now they suddenly realize, I never liked you, never loved you. We had to work. Now I have to see you. Now I have to talk to you. So and now there's another bunch whereby we're always away. Now we're back home. So there's a baby boom about to kick off, and there's a divorce boom about to kick off because one bunch never saw them. Now they're back in love because he got time, and the other bunch didn't realize they never liked them, didn't have to look at them, and now they have to get rid of them. So you're lucky to be in one side of that coin whereby your wife wanted to see you. Whereas we're a bunch are going, I'm not sure about never liked the look of you.
She didn't really have a choice at that point, right? So, but no, we were actually saying that. We're like, it's a good thing we kind of like each other. I think that sort of worked out. But I think there will be a lot of industries. I'm sure the divorce lawyer industry will go up. I'm sure, couples counseling must be through the roof right now. Yeah. All of those certainly exercise, trying to get rid of your 50 pounds that you gained in the last year. There's all of those things, that the industries will ebb and flow. So it'll be interesting to see, how it all evens out, as they say.
Brilliant. That's it. So again, if we play the statistics, George is, we could have another kid on the way. I probably have a divorce papers being sent to me. You're probably in the middle going, no, you are happy out. You've got the 7 and the 13 or the 30.
Absolutely. Actually, this stomach isn't me being pregnant, Garvin.
You're lucky.
Just leave me alone.
Right now, strangely enough, I'm gonna hone in on that one. Was that your choice or her choice?
That was my choice.
Oh, there you go. Well, look, we are actually at a point where we probably should bring this show to an end because we've gone well over an hour. Believe it or not, we try to keep it sort of around about an hour-ish sort of time, mainly because the cameras will probably get filled up very rapidly and things like that. That's okay. What we normally try and do is kind of give a roundup of what we've been talking about. We've gone from where have we gone from? We've gone from various different things like Star Trek, which was really quite good. We've even gone to sheds and making making things, which I think is really fantastic.
Stuff with your
Building stuff with your hands. Yeah. And I think that's really good. And we've also got into the kind of creativity and the fact that we don't need to be given permission to go and do what we would really like to do. And we've reached that sort of period of time now where we can do what we want to do. Well, maybe actually, Johnathan, you've had a chance to do it most of your life. And I think I have as well. So it's just Garvin that hasn't, because he got stuck as an accountant for a short period of time. But now he's free and he's able to go off and do what he needs to go and do.
But no one wants me. No one cares.
Nobody wants. We do. We love you. We love you. We love you.
I'm frightening people. They no. Lock them back up again is what they're saying. So,
well, look, what we normally do is at the end of these little shows, we just like to ask people if there's any little messages they'd like to give just at the very end. So we'll go off with Johnathan there. Is there anything you'd just like to finish the show with by saying? Should we actually talk to you again, or have we had a bad experience with you?
Never again.
Never again. Never again. No, I mean, it's it's interesting. We're on this platform Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And this was kind of a new thing that this is kind of our forced point of communication in a lot of ways for part, especially the beginning of the pandemic. But I think one of the things, we as human beings tend to find the good out of the bad. And so I think a lot of people started reconnecting with people, old college chums or family they hadn't seen, in a group, which this great piece of technology gave everyone a chance to sort of be in a room, in the room together. And it's kind of these, as you start to think about these things and moving forward, we have this tool, but it will be interesting. I'm looking forward to getting back in the room with people having a pint. And as wonderful as the technology piece is, there's really nothing that's better than actually connecting with people in the same room, sharing ideas, over a pint, and people from different and diverse backgrounds. So I hope that as we come out of, this pandemic, that more people will take the time, to your point of, hey, I'm not going to work today. I haven't seen my buddy in, a year. Let's just go spend the day together, right?
Yeah,
go spend some time with the people that you really want to reconnect with. And so that's what I say. I'd hope people watching the podcast really just take the opportunity to do that.
Well, look, thanks very much.
Get that pint and whiskey chaser and be in the room with the bud.
In the room.
Well, we'll give Garvin his last couple of words before we wrap up completely.
No, I'm still frightened from that little symbol a minute ago. I'm somewhere else at the moment.
That's probably a good thing. Well, look, Johnathan,
because if that's going to be told, no, you made a choice. I don't think I'm going to have one. I think that's going to be imposed.
That's
the only room I don't want to be in is the man with the white coat or the person with the white coat. With anything that's doing that, I'm not in that room. But I'm in the room with the pint and the whiskey chaser. So I'm leaving it at that. I'm okay with that.
Well, look, thanks very much, Johnathan, for joining us on our little show and to spend the time with us. It's been great sort of having a chance to chat with you, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity again sometime in the future to continue this on somewhere along the line, which I think would be great. And thanks, Garvin, for your introduction.
And cheers to you.
Brilliant.
And we will bring it out of the room and into the real room in time.
Right.
That's the next one.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, and bye for now.
Bye for now. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications.